Welcome back. As part of the continuous coverage of the US President Barack Obama's visit to India, we will be looking at various aspects of his visit and what has been achieved, and also the address of his to the CEO's forum, which will happen a little later. We'll be covering that also and analyze what is happening and what he has said and everything. Now I have two more new guests with me: Vinod Sharma, political editor, Hindustan Times, and Dr. Christopher Raj of the JNU. Welcome to both of you. Mr. Nalin Suri continues with us. Mr. Suri, we were talking about the finer print of the joint statement and what, and one of the things is about the 1-2-3 agreement. As far as the tracking is concerned, there have been criticisms or comments saying that this was actually not such a big problem, but it has been created and now it has been resolved.
No, I think this was certainly a big problem, but with the passage of time and with the fact that your competitors are actually going ahead and building nuclear power plants in India, your own suppliers also begin to think that maybe they need to relook their own position.
Right.
So I think a little bit of that is happening. I think the important thing is, when you move ahead with a relations with any country, it's not a one issue basis that you proceed on. You work on a series of projects and issues together, and there's always a balance among these issues.
You're talking of quid pro quo. Now, what is the quid pro quo?
Well, I'm not saying there is a quid pro quo. What I'm saying is, you may have an in-principle agreement on the nuclear issue. It does not mean that you have got everything else that you wanted. Like if you look at the agreement on the defense side, these projects have been agreed in principle.
Right.
So I think your membership of the NSG, MTCR, etc., will happen in due course of time. The US will be supportive, but
And this is not the first time the US has promised us to be part of those four groups or even the National Security Council.
You see, the problem is that the MTCR and the NSG, for which you are supposedly completely ready, has also China as a member.
Right.
And decisions on membership are taken by consensus. So the question is, will the US lean on China hard enough to get them to withdraw their objections if they have such objections? Now the Wassenaar arrangement and the Australia group are easier because China is not a member. But then again, there are countries which are members of these groups which are not so happy to have India on.
Absolutely.
Just as they were not happy with the 1-2-3 agreement.
Right.
So you remember we had to do a lot of heavy lifting at that time also. So the issue here is how much heavy lifting will the US do for you? And if I do something for you, you do expect something from me in return.
Absolutely. We know. You have had time now to look at the joint statement from last night. There was a little confusion on that. When you look at the joint statement now and some of the issues which we are discussing, how do you look at it?
It's a pretty exhaustive joint statement.
Yes.
Normally exceedingly long, I think. But it only shows the wide varieties of issues on which the two countries want to engage. But I must at the very outset make a point which is a bit nuanced, When Vajpayee was engaging with the United States, he used to call them natural allies. But there has been a little change of that nomenclature.
We are now partners.
Now we are partners, and allies, we are strategic partners, and as partners, I presume that we can be doing our own things besides agreeing with them on every issue.
Yeah, sorry to intervene. I want Mr. Nalin Suri to, give this clarity to the viewers, because, we keep talking about how is an ally different from a partner, and how is a partner different from a strategic partner?
Well, actually, because the problem with the word ally is that it has a certain historical connotation. Whether you were allies in the Second World War or you were allies in the Cold War era, but it depends on what the content is.
Right.
An ally should normally be a strategic partner, and a strategic partner should be an ally. But it does not, however, mean that whether you are an ally or a strategic partner, you have to agree with the other partner on everything. I mean,
which is not the case as far as India and US is concerned.
Look, it's not the case even between the US and the UK, which are the closest partners. It's not the case between the US and Japan, for instance.
Right.
So, I think we should not get too worried about the nomenclature here. The language Mr. Vajpayee used in the early stages, I think he was talking more in terms of two democracies. He was carrying forward actually from what Mr. Narasimha Rao had started, if you remember.
Right.
So there is a continuity in this. And to my mind, what is important is the content, not the nomenclature.
Okay, Vinod.
The ambassador would agree that we cannot in every issue be an ally of the United States at this juncture, and therefore the nomenclature of partner, the term partner suits us better. You see, there are certain elements in the joint statement which are encouraging, and there are certain elements in the joint statement which make us wait for things to unravel. And I think that most important element in the joint statement relates to Asia Pacific and Indian
Absolutely.
Ocean, which has a direct bearing on the maritime dispute in which Vietnam, Japan, China are engaged in South
Right,
China Sea.
right.
And also the disruptive, the commitment to disrupt certain organizations which are based out of Pakistan.
Right.
And a major, a joint effort by the United States and India to contain terrorism in this part of the world and elsewhere. Now we'll have to see that how it works out on the ground.
This is one of the aspects which I want all of you to let us focus first on this entire Asia Pacific and Indian Ocean business.
Yes.
We'll come to the Pakistan aspect.
Okay, so I'm just pointing out, I'm
Yeah.
just flagging the areas which we need to discuss. And I think that China has already made some noises consequent to the joint statement which was released yesterday. And I have a sneaking fear and I've been saying this too often, that you see, what we are seeing today compared to the past is a kind of a paradigm shift in a foreign policy. With India getting closer than it ever was to the United States.
Absolutely.
Getting closer to Israel than it ever was in the past. And at the same time, it perhaps positioning in a nuanced, very adversarial way vis-a-vis China and vis-a-vis Pakistan. And there are good reasons for us to should be tough with Pakistan on certain issues, especially the containment of terror, the threat that emanates from across the border. But whether Indian diplomacy, and we have a former ambassador sitting here next to us who served in England, and which is a capital where you pick up many things, stars in the wind.
And in China.
And in China. And so I would like to know that does the Indian diplomacy and our institutional memory is being adequately deployed when we are dealing with China? Because China is...
You have flagged the issue. We'll come back to it. I have my colleague Shyam Sundar standing at the out there. Shyam, what is the update now? What is happening? What has happened? And how does India look at this agreement, this joint statement, and also what is expected in the afternoon when the US President speaks to the CEOs?
Well, Barack Obama will be meeting business leaders of India, and yesterday also we have seen when joint statement was issued, apart from a nuclear deal and defense deal, there are many things which are on the agenda, especially advance pricing issue. And today we have seen in the newspapers there are headlines that on this agreement, if this agreement happens and the way Mr. Barack Obama has backed advance pricing issue and taxation issue, big ticket companies from US can invest in India very soon. And we have heard Finance Minister Mr. Arun Jaitley, he's saying, and we have heard him many times, that he is not in favor of aggressive tax regimes. And this is one of the indications that if Barack Obama is backing this decision of Indian government, and if there is an agreement between two countries, then many big ticket companies can invest in India, and it will be a good sign for Indian economy in coming days.
Okay, Shyam, thanks for that. Please keep a track of what's happening. We'll come back to you as we go along. Dr. Christopher Raj, coming back to you, what Vinod has raised, very important, very key issues he has raised. When you look at the joint statement, do you also get the same feeling which Vinod seems to be getting?
Yes, certainly. I would like to put this perspective historically.
Right.
You know, the US-China relations have contributed China's growth as a power. As you see, the movement, ever since Kissinger made his trip, took the China card into effect, the emergence of China in the world scene became a reality. So this being a background, the closer we get to United States, the greater the Chinese policy makers evaluate the growth of India.
Right.
So this is one fact I'm sure the policy makers will be concerned. The second thing that we saw was the Chinese also benefited in the 90s,
Right.
transfer of certain technologies in the field of space and also in the field of missile technology.
Right.
During Clinton period, the engagement, enlargement of the engagement, these were the most important developments. So in the kitty that we have in the joint statement, all these things are taking place. Although in the defense field, the transfer of technology is not to the level that the Americans promised the Chinese in 90s. And out of that, there were controversy. I won't go into that. So the second aspect that I would like to see is that defense sales have been major contribution, which the Chinese have not so far received American defense sales, which is very significant. Off the shelf, we have got both the major transport aircraft, which is a major sale for India. So this really build up our capability in deploying troops in the border area. So these are going into their calculations, must be, and related to the C-130, some transfer of technology in terms of transmission and radar is also taking place in this, apart from the drone agreement. Now, the major question which our journalist Inder had raised it, Vinod had raised it, is the aspect of America bringing up in the joint statement, both of us.
No, Dr. Christopher Raj, the question is this. Vinod's point of view is this, that never in the history of independent India have we seen the kind of shift which is being
I call it a paradigm shift.
A paradigm
Which it
shift
is.
being witnessed towards United States on the one hand and towards Israel on the other hand. Do you also get that feeling?
Well, I certainly, because, Ambassador would also bear a point in this. One of the major issues that we had America, which has been a very sensitive issue, has been nuclear issues. Much of our foreign policy had been tied to resolving, because over 30 years we were a nuclear apartheid,
Right.
as far as the situation was concerned.
And the apartheid led by the US.
Yeah, the whole non-proliferation regime was created by the US.
Right.
And now you see the whole thing is being now made for Indians and re-entry.
Yeah,
at various-
that is exactly the point we're just trying to make. Yes, Mr. Nalin Suri, this is how...
It's very interesting that when we were perceived to be close to the Soviet Union, and we were actually seen to be by the West as allies of the Soviet Union,
Right.
in this country nobody objected. Now, please remember, the opening to the United States began at the end of the Cold War
Right,
and was actually initiated by Mr. Narasimha Rao.
right.
The establishment of better relations with Israel, exchange of missions, was decided by Mr. Narasimha Rao. You have to take into account what's happening in the world. You cannot live in the past. You have to adjust to the changed international environment. You have to change in accordance with your own requirements.
Arfa, 1 second. Sir, Mr. Nalin Suri, I want to bring to your notice in the joint statement, the actual wording of that joint statement, which is number 4, the fourth paragraph of the statement says this: recognizing the important role, the concern which Vinod Sharma is expressing, partly is maybe because of the wording in this particular paragraph, recognizing the important role that both countries play in promoting peace, prosperity, stability and security in the Asia Pacific and Indian Ocean region, and noting that India's Act East policy and the United States rebalance to Asia provide opportunities for India, the United States and the other Asia Pacific countries to work closely to strengthen regional ties. See, this is supposed to be the matter of concern.
Can I come in here? I'm not for movement saying that what is happening today should not happen. What I am saying is that there is a historical context against which this shift has to be seen.
Right.
and whether that historical context has been factored in, whether this paradigm shift has been thought through in terms of its implications
I'll
in
come
the
to you.
future.
Let him say, and then I'll come.
I think to answer that point, yes, it's been thought through. I think it's been in the making for a long time. I mean, this whole question of rebalancing and the pivot and the fact of what an important role India will play in US policy in the Asia Pacific was what happened during the George Bush presidency. It's not new. It's a part of a process. You know, you're reaching a stage in the process. And I said at the very beginning of your program, the important thing is that you are now not just talking about the Asia Pacific,
Indian Ocean.
Talk about the Indian Ocean. So as far as India is now concerned, India's hinterland is from the east coast of the Indian Ocean, west coast of the Indian Ocean, west part of the Indian Ocean, which is east coast of Africa, all the way to the west coast of the Pacific. And that is the area in which you are now going to be playing.
लेकिन विनोद शर्मा जी सहमत नहीं है कुछ
मैं सहमत तो हूँ, मैं कुछ सवाल उठा रहा हूँ यहाँ पर। देखिए, मैं दो तीन चीजें मैंने, एक तो पहले मैंने चीन की बात की, और चीन देखिए, चीन की तो एलिफेंटाइन मेमोरी, वो तो भूलते नहीं आसानी से कुछ भी। और जहां तक चीन से हमारे संबंधों की बात है, हमारे उनके साथ बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट, एक बड़ा भारी बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट पेंडिंग है। उनकी दखलंदाजी कश्मीर में भी है, और हम अगर साउथ चाइना सी में, जिसके बारे में बहुत सेंसिटिव है, जैसे कि वो तिब्बत के बारे में है, जैसे कि वो मकाओ के बारे में है, जैसे कि वो ताइवान के बारे में है, अगर हम और चीन, अमेरिका ने उनको अकोमोडेट किया उन इश्यूज पे अभी तक, जहां तक मकाओ और ताइवान की बात है, काफी हद तक अकोमोडेट किया उनकी सेंसिटिविटीज को। और आज के दिन प्रोफेसर साहब ने कहा कि उन्होंने हमको टेक्नोलॉजी, अमेरिका ने उनको टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफर दिया, अमेरिका ने उनकी इकोनॉमी को बढ़ने में मदद की, ये बात सच है बिल्कुल। लेकिन हमको एक बात समझनी चाहिए कि चीन को वो सब इसलिए हासिल हुआ कि उसके पास यूनाइटेड नेशन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल में वीटो थी, जो कि हिंदुस्तान के पास नहीं है।
लेकिन विनोद शर्मा जी, एक जो बड़ी दलील दी जा रही है, उस वक्त ये भी दी जा रही है कि नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार की ये बात तो जरूर है कि वो सिंगल माइंडेडली ये जानते हैं कि अमेरिका के साथ इंटरनेशनल प्लेटफॉर्म पे देखे जाना चाहते हैं, और वो न सिर्फ पार्टनर बल्कि अलाय भी बनना चाहते हैं। हालांकि कई लोग कहते हैं कि इसमें बहुत बड़ा फर्क है, और अलाय बनने में अभी जिस तरह से हम सोवियत यूनियन के देखे जाते हैं, तो उसमें अभी भी फर्क है जितना हम अमेरिका के लेकिन उस सबके बावजूद महत्वपूर्ण ये भी है कि जिस तरह से यूपीए सरकार जिस उलझन में थी कि इधर जाए या उधर जाए, कम से कम आइडियोलॉजिकल क्लैरिटी
नहीं है ना अब। यूपीए, इट्स नॉट देयर ऑन द स्क्रीन।
हाँ, लेकिन क्लैरिटी तो है कम से कम आइडियोलॉजिकल।
क्लैरिटी है, उसमें क्लैरिटी ही पे मैं सवाल उठा रहा हूं कि ये क्लैरिटी जहां तक अमेरिका के साथ संबंध सुधारने की बात है, जैसा कि एम्बेसडर सूरी ने कहा कि ये नरसिम्हा राव के जमाने से बात चल रही है, अब ये बात काफी आगे बढ़ गई है, मनमोहन सिंह के कार्यकाल में बढ़ी और उससे आगे अब नरेंद्र मोदी साहब के कार्यकाल में बढ़ रही है। लेकिन मैं दो चार अलग से सवाल उठा रहा हूं। देखिए, जब जॉइंट प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस जॉइंटली एड्रेस की गई, तो मैं आपको याद दिला दूं कि जब पुतिन साहब यहां आए थे तो उनके साथ यूक्रेन का प्राइम मिनिस्टर भी आ गया था, और ये कहा गया था डेलीगेशन का मेंबर नहीं है, लेकिन उसी समय पे वो वहां था, जिसके चलते अमेरिकन कुछ खुश नहीं थे। और कल हमारे प्रधानमंत्री की प्रेजेंस में जिस तरह से ओबामा साहब ने पुतिन के बारे में और यूक्रेन के बारे में बात की, और हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर बगल में उनके बैठे हुए थे, तो उसका भी एक सिग्नल मॉस्को में जाएगा। उसी तरह से जो जॉइंट स्टेटमेंट है उसका एक सिग्नल बीजिंग में जाएगा, और उसी तरह से जो आतंकवाद से मिलकर लड़ना है और जो होमलैंड सिक्योरिटी पे जो हमारे ताउन बढ़ता जा रहा है, हमारा जो इंटरेक्शन बढ़ता जा रहा है, उसका एक सिग्नल हमारे बगल के मुल्क में जाएगा। अब इसके क्या कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस होंगे, और क्या वी हैव फैक्टर्ड इन the worst case scenario and how to face it?
I think yes, Mr. Suri. I think we need to discuss the issue.
Before you came, when we started this program, I said at the very beginning that there are three aspects to this visit, and the second aspect is signaling. I also said that signaling has upsides and it has downsides. And what you're talking about are the downsides.
Yes.
And I think I have no doubt in my mind that these have been factored in, the downside, because look, as I said, I think earlier part of the program, when you're not there, we are dealing with professionals on our side also. They are extremely competent people who are handling these negotiations on our side. So I think they don't need to be given advice from outside. What are the implications?
Is this just a professional foreign policy thing, or it's a larger political issue?
No. As I said to you at the very beginning, this is part of your outreach. You are now setting the basis for hopefully a qualitatively new relationship which will allow you to become, or at least acquire, the developmental potential, not only for domestic economic development, but also to project your power and your influence in the broader Indo-Pacific region.
Right.
And I think, you have to start thinking as a great player. You have to start thinking beyond the South Asian region. And that's
Absolutely.
important. That's what every government has been trying to do since the end of the Cold War.
In fact, if you see the joint statement, the another aspect which is very striking is the fact that the joint statement talks about India expanding its role beyond South Asia, beyond even East Asia. It is talking of Iran. It's talking of Afghanistan is already there. So there seems to be a desire from the US that India should play a bigger role at a global level. You think this is the right time for India to take the opportunity, because in the past we have always heard that India has been shying away from taking a larger global role.
Well, I would take it in a historical perspective. You see, China and Pakistan had come together, and their closeness in relationship, and during that time we had no certainty of US on our side. So they never allowed us to come out of South Asia. We were dumped in South Asia. It is only during Bush time he said we want to make, Condoleezza was quite clear, Blackwell was quite clear what India would do, and they just, because we had common enemy on terrorism, and Pakistan became the souring point. So the changing environment historically, when you see, India has come out of South Asia, no longer to be tied up with the situations and aspects in South Asia. Once it starts playing a global role, the South Asian states will come to the normal relationship.
जी, लेकिन प्रोफेसर क्रिस्टोफर आज जिस तरह से बार बार चर्चा इस बात पर हो रही है कि हम ये तो देख रहे हैं कि फायदे हमें क्या क्या हैं अमेरिका के साथ देखे जाने के, लेकिन इसके अलावा जो डाउन साइड की चर्चा हो रही है वो भी तो कम से कम हमें बताइए। दूसरी महत्वपूर्ण बात ये भी है कि क्या डोमेस्टिकली अगर हम देखें घरेलू स्तर पर, क्या राजनीति, क्या समाज इस बात के लिए तैयार है कि हम पूरे तरीके से अमेरिका के साथ देखे जाएं, उसके एक अलाय के तौर पर या पार्टनर के तौर पर? इन दोनों में फर्क भी हमें समझाइए।
देखिए, ऐसा है, आपने जो रेस किया क्वेश्चन, ये बात स्पष्ट है, डोमेस्टिकली एंटी अमेरिकन फीलिंग्स हैं, बट ऐसा है कि ये अब पिछले 15 साल से कम होते जा रहा है। आप देखिए, जो लेफ्ट पार्टीज हैं, जब अमेरिका एंड चाइना वर टुगेदर, दे कैन सब कुछ कर सकते हैं, भारत और चाइना को कुछ, भारत और यूएस नहीं कर पाते। ये क्या स्टैंड है? नेशनल इंटरेस्ट नहीं देखते, वो आइडियोलॉजिकल इंटरेस्ट दे। चाइना जो कुछ अमेरिका के साथ करेगा प्रॉब्लम नहीं है उनके लिए, क्रिटिसिज्म नहीं है। जब हम न्यूक्लियर डील करेंगे उनके साथ प्रॉब्लम आ जाती। चाइना ने हमसे पहले उनके साथ न्यूक्लियर डील किया, 1, 2, 3 एग्रीमेंट हमसे पहले किया। ये सब हो रहा है, China can do, but the leftist party thinks India cannot do well.
So लेकिन ग्रीस एक सवाल यहाँ पर ये भी पैदा हो रहा है कि क्या
ये डिफिकल्टी है लेफ्टिस्ट पार्टी, बट लेफ्टिस्ट पार्टी अब कमजोर होते जा रहा है। आप देखिए,
लेकिन सवाल ये भी पैदा हो रहा है कि राजनीतिक तौर पे वो कमजोर हो रही है, बात सही है, लेकिन क्या अमेरिका की अब जो आने वाली पॉलिसीज हैं, जो उनकी इंटरनेशनल पॉलिटिक्स है, जो उनके देखने का नजरिया है, क्या भारत उस नजरिए को का भी समर्थन करेगा? क्या उनके साथ उस तरह भी जाएगा?
देखिए, ऐसा है कि अमेरिका का जो फुटप्रिंट्स हैं अक्रॉस द ग्लोब, वो फुटप्रिंट्स देखकर उनके कदमों पे चलने का मन नहीं करता। इराक देख लें आप, वहां पर जो छोड़ के आए हैं, कत्लो-गारत हो रही है वहां पर, उनका जो उनके अपने लोग फिल्में बनाते हैं सीरियाना कि किस तरह ऑयल पॉलिटिक्स जो है उनकी स्ट्रेटेजिक पॉलिसी को डिटरमिन करता है। और अमेरिका हैज बीन इन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट with across the Muslim world as of today. It is, especially in West Asia. France and Germany have had serious problems with their policies in West Asia because their money was being invested and America was assuming the leadership.
What is the point? What is the point? The point is that,
I'm coming to the point. I'm coming to the point. What I am saying is that for India to keep most of its eggs in one basket is not going to be acceptable in domestic terms as well, because in this country you have a second largest majority which happens to belong to a particular religious persuasion.
Mr. Suri,
you have to convince them. You have to convince them. Please, you have to convince them. Let me finish. You have to convince them that our foreign policy is on the right track, that it has got nothing to do with joining up with the United States against a particular faith or a persuasion.
Okay.
A lot of public diplomacy has to be done by way of explanation.
जी
Yes, Mr.
और
Sood.
शायद इसी पब्लिक डिप्लोमेसी का सवाल मैं आपसे पूछना चाह रही थी कि क्या डिप्लोमेटिक और पॉलिटिकल सर्कल्स में इसको लेकर आम राय है?
Yeah, I'm running out of time, I think, because your other guest is coming. But I just like to remind you that we have strategic partnerships not just with the United States, with Japan, with China, with Russia, with the European Union. So the question is, you have to
Balance.
you have to leverage whatever you can through the strategic partnership and evolve an overall balance which looks after your national interests. And the fact is, if we've given such a warm welcome to President Obama, an equally warm welcome was given to President Xi Jinping and to President Putin. So I think you have to accept the fact that you have to deal in a multipolar world or an evolving multipolar world with the different important poles. We have the arrangements in place to do that. Now we have to leverage that.
Multipolar world, that is the key.
But then the very concept of a multipolar world is anachronistic for the United States, which is a hegemonistic
तो फिलहाल
power.
एक छोटा सा
In many
ब्रेक
ways.
है और ब्रेक के बाद कुछ और नए मेहमान हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में आएंगे.